Terrific start to season 107 in the National Football League. 48 more preseason games. We'll have the opener in Seattle.
Look, I have one question. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? What a way to kick off the season, the Hall of Fame game, and the Panthers show out and entertain the masses. Entertain the masses. Did you see Haynes King last night? Did you see Brad Isaac play calling that? We got a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk offense. We're going to talk defense. And then we're going to talk about some key takeaways coming from this opening performance by the Carolina Panthers as we has won our first preseason game, 33-30. Great way to open the season. Let's get to it.
Everybody wants to be a Panther until it's time to hunt. Inside P-Town, let's hunt.
All right, so first I want to talk about the offense, right? Okay, let's start there. Let's start at the top of the helm. Let's get at these quarterbacks. Okay, so first we had Kenny Pickett, who had 62 yards. He went 8 for 11 and had an 86.2 rating. And then we had Haynes King, who had 180 yards for 2 touchdowns. He went 21 for 34 with a 95.2 rating. Now, Kenny Pickett, let's start there. There were some headlines, there was some news by beat writers, people who are actually there inside the training camp practices live, watching these quarterbacks throw. And one thing that's been reported is Bryce Young is having his best training camp yet. That's good news. Let's clap it up for that. Kenny Pickett, on the other hand, there's been reports that there's a big drop-off from Bryce Young to Kenny Pickett. And there's also been reports that Haynes King, from training camp only, not even mentioning this preseason game, that he's been outperforming Kenny Pickett. So what this game showed us is sometimes we got to really listen to what's going on in practice. Listen to who's getting snaps. Listen to how people are producing, right? Listen to the fact that Bryce Young is having his best season. Maybe, this is some great news for us. And there's some truth in the fact that Haynes King's been outproducing Kenny Pickett, because we saw that last night. Very clear. And it's one thing I like to do. For me, I'll go by the eye test. The eye test. I go off what I see. Okay, yes, there's stats in the game, and yes, there's some information and some other variables. I trust my eyes. And my eyes showed me last night that, yes, Kenny Pickett has been struggling. And Haynes King clearly should be QB2. It just seemed the offense just started to flow better. It looked like the Haynes King went through certain progressions that Kenny Pickett just didn't go through. Kenny Pickett was sacked, I believe, one time. It was a couple of times he threw some balls that were inaccurate. He kind of threw, shorter passes to play it safe, instead of letting his progressions or letting the play develop. I think that we are seeing that there's a strong possibility that Haynes King is going to end up QB2. Now, let's go on to Haynes King, the man of the hour. Look, when you're an undrafted free agent and you're in these preseason games, this is your season. You are playing for now, and you're playing for your career, and you're playing to just put good film on tape for other teams. But what he did last night, he's not playing for other teams. Carolina's going to take a look and really have to analyze this quarterback depth, this quarterback room. And I can see Haynes King clearly becoming QB2. He showed a lot of poise. He went through his progressions. There are a lot of plays where he really analyzed the whole route tree. We talk about that 3rd and long to Jimmy Horn when he hit that perfect pass as that corner route. You know, we talked about when he hit my man, number 35, forgetting his name, across the middle. He went through his progressions when he rolled out and hit Jasim Reed, right? Going through progressions and really having a real good control over the offense. And the crazy thing was he didn't really use his gift. He didn't really use his gift that much in his legs, right? He's doing exactly what I think Lamar Jackson is trying to get to. Now, I know let me put a disclaimer. I'm not saying I understand that he was out there versus 2s and 3s and Lamar Jackson's out there every Sunday versus the best. I understand that. What I'm saying is the style of play. He used his arm, which was very questioned coming from Georgia Tech and Haynes King, from a running football led program like Georgia Tech. He went through his progressions. It was arm first. He stayed in the pocket. And only when he needed to, when it was the best option available, he took off running. He didn't run early and he didn't run late. He went through his progressions, and when it wasn't there, then he improvised and used his legs. He showed tremendous poise. Now, a lot of people don't know that Haynes King is actually older than Bryce Young. So he's a more polished rookie. You know, he's seen a lot of football, has a lot of more maturity than we're going to see in a lot of rookies. But his performance, to say the least, I mean, it gives you something to think about, because we saw the talent in his arm, him throwing those passes over the middle where he had to get it over the 2nd level to get to the 3rd level. I mean, you saw him going through his progressions, the gotta have it moments, that pass to Jimmy Horn on that deep out route right before the time was clocked down at 3 seconds for that game-winning play, and having the poise to see the field on that game-winning play, watch the sea spread apart, and then run it in for a game-winning touchdown. You don't get no better than that. You do not get no better than that as far as an undrafted rookie having to play majority of a preseason game and keep your team afloat and win a game and perform. Because Carson Beck, we're going to talk about the defense later, was going crazy. So for him have to come in and keep up with that and have a better game than Carson Beck, I mean, just tremendous. So Haynes King, hey, keep doing you. And I tell you what, just being honest, all right, it's going to be, probably a little commotion. It's going to be caused when I say this. Bryce Young starts the season slow, like he typically does. And Haynes King keeps playing like he's doing in this preseason. There's going to be a lot of talks, man. There's going to be a conversation. We know that Bryce Young's in a contract extension year where he's in talks on probably extending. And there's going to be some talks, man. Because I really feel like Haynes King, it looks like his skill set fits the mold of the offense. And it showed last night. So moving along to the running backs. Let's talk running backs. So obviously we have Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, who did not play, but we did get to see Trevor Etienne, who started the game, 4 carries for 12 yards. We had A.J. Dillon come in, 3 carries for 18 yards. We had Anthony Tyus, 8 carries for 19 yards. And then Miles Davis, 4 carries for 53 yards. All right. And of course, Haynes King, who had 3 carries for 39 yards and the game-winning touchdown. So the running game. Okay. The running backs. I thought that Tyus and Davis really ran hard last night. Of course, Davis had that breakaway run late in the game. That's probably one of the longest runs I've seen out of us in the preseason. So I was very thankful for that. I thought that A.J. Dillon, when he came in the game, there was a clear difference from ETN to the A.J. Dillon. One, in his stature. You saw his size. You saw how he hit the holes. He had a nice little explosion. I think he had like a little 4-yard dump pass, and he took it for about 12 yards. He had just a little more pop. It seemed he seemed to have more than ETN. So it's going to be very interesting to see if ETN now, is he going to make this roster? Are we going to see a Jonathan Brooks? Is he going to make the 53? Are we going to see a Chuba Hubbard backed by Jonathan Brooks and then backed by A.J. Dillon? Because I like having a power back. You know, we don't have a true power back. And the explosion he saw, and he's a veteran, he's been around the game. I think it will do the offense, you know, some justice in them short yard situations to have a veteran running back like A.J. Dillon on the roster. So that's going to be something to really, really, you know, key in on to, because it looked like ETN a couple of times. It's like he just wasn't hitting the hole, you know, hard enough. So a lot of second guessing, a little bit too choppy with the feet at times. So, but it's going off of game one. It's game one. But this is just based off what I saw yesterday. So very good job by the running back group, especially Davis. I know Tyus had that one fumble, but he was running hard. But, you know, that's something you can't do in the preseason. You're trying to make a team. You got to hold on to the rock, especially in a room that they already have 2 solidified kind of starters. You know, you want to make that 53-man roster. That's pretty much a done deal at this point. Once you turn over the rock, that's just how it is. All right, so now let's get to probably the most stacked, hectic room on the offense right now, and that is this receiver room. This receiver room is a lot of stuff going on, right? A lot of moving parts. We lost Brazel for the year. We have Xavier Legette, who's had some injuries, but, you know, he seems to be okay, who did not play in this game, right? So for the receivers for this game, we had Jimmy Horn, who led the team with 44 yards and 4 receptions. We had John Mechie, who had 3 receptions for 38 yards. Jasim Reed, 2 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown. Casey Washington, a new face, who had 3 receptions for 24 yards. And Anthony Tyus, who had a reception for 5 yards and a touchdown. All right, so the receiving game. What I saw last night. One, let's start with the fact that Bryce Tremaine was the receiver out there with the most snaps and playing with the ones of the preseason, right? So he was out there first. This shows me the trust they have in him as a player, the trust they have in him as a seasoned person in the system. He's in the right place at the right time. He does the dirty work. He blocks really well. There's a lot of trust that the coaching staff, that Canales and Brad Isaac have in him coming in and, you know, doing what is asked for him. And that seems to be a key. He's getting a lot of the major snaps. Now, next we were trying to see who gets the bulk of the snaps between David Moore, between Jasim Reed, Mechie, and Jimmy Horn Jr. Those are the 4 we're kind of trying to juggle and analyze, because we already know we're going to have T-Mac, Coker, Xavier Legette. So with the receiver room so packed as it is on this roster, because there's so many players that can contribute, and seeing how the special team roles play out with this receiving core, we had both Jasim Reed and Jimmy Horn back there on some kick return duties. I would have loved to see Jimmy Horn return a punt. I think that's where he shines the most. I would have loved to see him in that capacity, but we didn't get to see that last game. But back to the receiving game, I thought that, number one, Jasim Reed, he looks polished. He does look polished. I saw somebody on X, they tweeted and they said that Jasim Reed is the dark-skinned Jalen Coker. All right? And I think it's a little bit of a reach, but I'm not mad at it because I can see where they're coming from. He's polished, has great hands. He did have that one drop But other than that, he came through, had a touchdown on a nice little catch and run, showing that speed and just showing his ability to run routes and be where he's supposed to be. Did a really good job last game. But in my eyes, John Mechie was the most polished receiver we had last game. He really showed his craftsmanship and running the route tree. He looked very polished, looked very comfortable. He created really just good, solid separation, which is something that we really need in our receiving core. You know, with T-Mac, he doesn't create the highest separation, even though his catch radius is ridiculous. Jalen Coker's the same way. Jalen Coker just happens to catch anything you throw to him. His separation is not the greatest, but he'll catch anything. So I think we're really looking for a receiver that can help us separate. And that's what I see in John Mechie. Just a great job, a great performance by him. He looked like a veteran receiver. And then we move on to Jimmy Horn Jr. Before we get to him, David Moore. David Moore came in. I believe he was targeted maybe once or twice. I know it fell short. The one pass that was thrown to him, it was a drop or it was knocked out, something like that. I didn't really see much out of David Moore last night. Now, Jimmy Horn Jr. Jimmy is, I think I finally found out what's going on. I was watching Dave Canales' press conference, and I saw a reporter at the end ask, like, hey, basically saying, we see the flashes in Jimmy. We see this talent. Like, sometimes it just seems he doesn't get the ball a lot or in these situations to really showcase, like, what's really going on. And Dave Canales said, you know, sometimes it's just happenstance. In the flow of the game, sometimes it is there are plays we call from him, but he just happens not to be open on that play because of the defense. And then also, you know, sometimes you want him to be in these right spots that he's continuing to learn and continue to grow in. And it's just the small details. And I think that's what I'm starting to see, because I noticed a couple things, right? There was a play when Haynes King rolled out and he threw it to Jimmy, and you saw, I think Jimmy had like a drop, but was a little bit behind him. And I saw Haynes King looked at Jimmy and was telling him, hey, sit down. You're supposed to sit down. Jimmy continued to move, going to the outside, and he's supposed to stop and sit and catch the ball. And Haynes King threw a pass that was more directed to Jimmy, obviously standing still than moving. So I think it's just the small details on why the offense sometimes are not putting him in position. Maybe there's a lack of trust there that he's executing things to a certain level. And I think like when you see like a Jasim Reed, he's always in the right position. There's a lot of trust there. Or Bryce Tremaine, they go after people who are running their system and are in the right spots, especially when you have a quarterback like Bryce Young. You got to think about it. He throws with anticipation. He's throwing to a spot. So you got to get to that spot. And I think that's what's holding Jimmy from getting a lot of opportunities. It's just fine-tuning those small details, right? And sometimes it can be a little lapse in judgment and choices. So I just noticed that when I was watching them last night. I saw that play and I said, I just took note. And then I heard the press conference. It kind of confirmed it to me that these are the things we're not seeing. Now, when it comes from being flashy and showing that you're fast and, you know, have solid hands, Jimmy has shown that. I mean, there are just plays you can see the acceleration, you see the pop, you saw the run after catch ability that he clearly flashes over any other receiver on this roster. All right, and this is why I think it's a no-brainer to have him, because he can do what nobody else can do. And that is, one, stretch the field immediately, great acceleration, and that catch he had to set up that game-winning run for Haynes King. You're talking about catching in traffic, catching with a defender draped all over you, showing strong hands. See, Jimmy Horn, what I found out, he's a confidence guy. You know, I think as he gets more opportunities, you're going to continue to see more out of him. I don't think he does the opposite when you give him more opportunities and he shrinks. You know, I think he's the type, if you continue to build with him, he's just going to get better and better and better. And, man, he had a good performance. 4 catches, 44 yards, and he really just shows that he just has that one element, that speed, really, really good at route running that I think kind of separates him from the others. and on why he needs to be on this 53-man roster. But it's, once again, the small details. It's really, really, really compact. There's marginal difference from Mechie, Reed to Horn Jr. So their play in this preseason is so vital. So vital, and especially when you looked at kick returning, because Mechie had the best kick return last night. He went and popped for a 36-yarder. All right. And then Reed had a kick return for like 26 yards. And then Jimmy Horn had a kick return for 25 yards. So who's going to be the kick returner? Who's going to show that they'll take that element? Because that's another, piece that can advocate for one of them making the team. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see, what comes about. But for those receivers, I think all three of them had a solid performance. They all showed up. And so it's going to be very interesting. Now moving along to the tight end room. The tight ends were used more than, I'm used to seeing, especially out of Panthers football, period. But especially in the preseason, the tight ends were used pretty well. We had Jatavian Sanders. I think he had 3 catches for like 13 yards. We had Felipe Franks came in with 2 catches for 8 yards. James Mitchell had about 3 catches for 15 yards. So it was really good to see these tight ends used in the system. And this is something that you can see as an effect on Brad Idzik. I think in his offense, I don't think he went deep into his bag in his offense this game, but he definitely opened up a little bit. I think out of just the competitive nature and the flow of the game, they seemed to open up the offense just a little bit in some of the play calling, because we were honestly executing very well as an offense. I mean, very well. Brad Idzik was doing his thing. He was definitely doing his thing. So I want to definitely put an exclamation on that. But the tight ends were utilized. So that's very good to see that our tight ends are, possibly going to get used more in our offense. And, we'll see what that does for us. But that was cool to see. Now to the offensive line. Offensive line started out, they started out very, very slow. And until the Cardinals went in and put their backups in, well, their backups to their backups, it was getting a little bit ugly up front. What's my man, Sam Heck? Sam Heck, hey, he better get the heck up out of there. He's about to get the heck up out of there. Because, boy, I tell you, he looked a little rough. There was one play, I think the center or the nose tackle just went right through him. Went right through him. He may have, got his shoe stepped on or something, but still, it just looked bad. And then we had my man, number 76, Albert Reese. Albert Reese, he was getting killed. He was holding, he had penalties, getting burned off the line. It was bad. So the offensive line needs some work. Even Brady Christensen had a little slip up, but in the beginning, it was a little rough. So just interested to see our depth at the offensive line. And at the end of the day, we're seeing what's happening with so much injuries on our offensive line. Obviously, with Moten and Ekwonu out, it's going to be really interesting to see, what comes about our offensive line as the season goes forward. And we just better be praying, man. Better be praying, hoping these guys get back healthy. Especially going to Bryce's contract year, we can really use a miracle in getting these guys back. All right, so moving along to the defense, there were some things that definitely stood out. Let's talk about it. I'm not going to hold my tongue. I'm going to tell you guys exactly like it is. And from what I saw, once again, Princely, Cam Jackson, Lee Hunter, Will Lee, my man Caleb Evans, Wallace, all of them played subpar. Every last one of them played subpar. All right. At the beginning of the game, the offensive line was just pushing them boys right back. Was pushing them right back. There were times that Lee Hunter, he does have this quick twitch. I did see it last night. He has a very, very good quick twitch. But sometimes he gets out of position very quickly. But I think that's something he'll learn going forward. But if you was watching it closely, because my eyes were like glued to Lee Hunter at one point. And I saw those quick moves that he had at Texas Tech. But sometimes, once again, he'll use a swim move, and then he'll put himself right out of position, and running back will go right by him. So there was just certain things that I think he can clean up. But still, everyone plays subpar. Willie, I mean, listen, we love the aggression. I love the pass breakup. He has those flashes. He's definitely going to be a starter in this league. You can see it. He looks polished. He looks good as a corner. But, man, you can't be too aggressive. You can't overdo it, especially in Evero's system. Evero's system is tailor-made to stop the deep balls. There's no excuse for it in Evero's system. He's going to play you off so he can keep everything in front of you. And, I mean, and Will Lee just got straight burnt toast. I mean, just straight burnt. And it was like, come on, you can't do that. But as bad as that was, for Caleb Evans to get burnt on the same exact route very shortly, it's like you already just saw your mans. All right? You saw your man, so now y'all went back on the tablet. You see what they're trying to do. And the same exact play, you get burnt. That was no excuse. That was no excuse. So them guys, young guys, they just got to pay more attention, be more disciplined in their craft. But, you know, once again, you learn those lessons now, especially the first game of the preseason, being that we had an extra game as well, being the Hall of Fame game is good. It's good that they go through those growing pains now because there will be zero tolerance for that once the season begins. On defense, linebackers. All right, Sherilis was out there. I think Sherilis is going to take Wallace's spot. I'm just going to be straight up. I think Sherilis is going to take Trevin Wallace's spot. I mean, I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to say this in the most. He's just not getting it done. Trevin Wallace, to me, him and Jake Kuwach look almost like the same player. Last night. I said it. Trevin Wallace and Kuwach looked like the same linebacker last night. And I can see little elements in which Kuwach is going to get better, which he's going to progress. I saw the way he was just moving. He was seeing the plays, wasn't quite getting there. But I think, you know, his is more informational and just downloading a little bit faster. And I think he'll get there. Trevor sometimes just looks lost. I don't know what's going on. All right. And I'm just being straight up. I think that Sherilis will end up starting. Now, lastly, going back to that D-line, Princely played, if y'all didn't know. I ain't gonna lie to you. It was a point when I was looking at the game. I said, yo, somebody wearing Princely's jersey? Because that's not Princely. That can't be Princely. I was watching like, yo, somebody's wearing Princely's jersey. Can they do that? I went online, started Googling because another player wearing another player's jersey for preseason. And like, that's not Princely. Until they zoomed in, I saw his gold hair. I said, that is Princely. One, he looks smaller, but I saw that he kind of like, you know, really got a little bit more lean. But I ain't seen nothing from Princely. I didn't see nothing from Princely. You know, all that talk of wanting to do better and, you know, I'm going to make them pay for it in the long run. I'm going to get that big contract. I'm going to break the bank. You know, I'm all for it. And I understand it's preseason game number one. Well, I'm expecting Princely to give me some type of push off that edge, a little sack or, you know, something like that. I want proven plays. I want a sack. I'm not going for you was almost there anymore. No, we're not doing that. I want to see you get to the quarterback, period. And I didn't see that out of Princely. You going against the backups. So I was very disappointed in that. Very disappointed in seeing just the way he played, especially knowing we're going to need him this year. You know, so I'm hoping that, you know, he improves from here on out. Wheatley, the safety from Penn State. Wheatley, he has been a person who's been very quiet in camp. You haven't heard a lot of noise out of him. Right. I haven't heard a lot of things. I mainly heard things from like Will Lee and what's been going on with him as one of the rookies that's standing out. But Wheatley did a good job. I think he had about 7, 8 tackles. He also had a forced fumble. We saw him go for the ball and being aggressive and had a forced fumble using a nice little peanut punch. So I was actually good. I think he had a solid game, a solid outing. He was always in the right position. Made some key tackles. So shout out to Wheatley for sure. And Ransom. I mean, golly, Ransom. Ransom had one hit on the receiver. Yes, I think it was after Caleb Evans got burnt. Ransom had a hit that it was like, good God Almighty. That's one thing Ransom going to do. That's one thing Ransom is going to do. He's going to, bring them pads. So shout out to Ransom as well. But yeah, those were my key takeaways at the defense. Cooley did call the defense. It wasn't Ivero, Jonathan Cooley, who is our defensive passing game coordinator. So he was calling plays, is what Dave Canales said. And that's standard. You get people experience. You find people on the staff that you want to help grow, and you give them these opportunities early in preseason so they can get a feel of, calling defenses and stuff of that nature. So that is very, very standard. And there's not a lot going into defensive schemes in the preseason. You're not showing all your schemes. You're not doing a whole bunch of stunts and things of that nature. So, yeah, he did call plays. And then Brad Isaac obviously called plays for the offense. So there you have it. Just in summary, so kind of just want to touch on my key takeaways. One, Brad Isaac, the offense, it looks better. Just from last preseason to this preseason, from last year's games to now, the flow looks better. We're getting tight ends involved. There's a better balance with the passing and running, a lot of play action. And a key thing that's being added to this offense, we are taking shots downfield. Finally, we're at least trying to take some shots downfield. So that is a very, very key takeaway from this game. Number two, obviously, Haynes King. Will Haynes King be QB2? I think he's going to end up being QB2. There's too many intangibles to his game. And not that there's too many intangibles to his game. There's just too many intangibles lacking from Kenny Pickett's game. So I can see him definitely moving to QB2. Number three, Trevin Wallace will not be starting. That's one of my key takeaways. Trevin Wallace will not be starting. All right. Sorry. I'm just calling like I see it. Number four, the rookies got to grow and learn. That's it. Lee Hunter, Will Lee, just grow and learn from your mistakes. All right, Lee, yes, you can have a quick step, but you got to stay in your gap. You got to stay disciplined. Okay? Will Lee, yes, you can be aggressive at corner. You can't get beat. Okay? You can't overcommit. All right? You can commit, but you can't overcommit. You can't get beat. So that's another key takeaway. And lastly, the wide receiver room is crazy. It's crazy right now. Mechie showing up, Reed showing up, Jimmy showing up. What we gonna do? What we gonna do? Which receiver is gonna step up and say, you know what, I'm gonna take this receiver core to the next level? I got it. Who? I don't know. That's all to be continued. So that ends my summary and my key points from the preseason game. And last but not least, shout out to Luke Kuechly, man. He's the reason for the season. He's the reason, for us celebrating this Hall of Fame game in this moment. We did our part, the Panthers, with the 33-30 victory, showing out to the world. And shout out to Luke Kuechly for giving me especially a lifetime of memories. I literally saw his whole career. So best linebacker that I've ever seen with my eyes. So shout out to Luke Kuechly, and thank each and every one of you. Like the video, subscribe. Until next time, this is your boy P-Way here with Inside P-Town, and I'm out. Peace.